It's all about the macro productions.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack-Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host.
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Rumble, Band.video, Vigilante TV, now on YouTube, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks a million. We appreciate your support. Macroaggressions.io is the website that you can use to figure out what's going on with me. Hopefully you're over at activistpost.com. Sign up for the email newsletter. It's a great one. Send it. We're not going to spam you too much. Wednesdays and Sundays, you'll get emails. They're really great. Go over there, sign up, activistpost.com. Legal Shield has been our sponsor for the last couple of years. I always try to talk about them in the beginning of the year because I know that people are thinking about what am I going to do this year and, what do I need to do? And a lot of times the thing that you need to do is take care of a bunch of paperwork and things like that you don't really want to do. Do you have your last will and testament? You have to have that. It's really important that you not get caught up in the legality after you die and wind up in probate. You don't want to set your family up for failure with that. Get your last will and testament done immediately. Get that done. Get your financial power of attorney, your medical directive. These documents are easy for lawyers to put together for you. You just need to know where to go. I'll tell you where to go. Go to don'tgetpushedaround.com. That's the website that Legal Shield built specifically for this show. If you sign up for their program, you'll have an attorney that will help you out. You get an app on your phone. It's super easy to use. You just message them and say, do you need legal documents? The thing will just give you the app will auto-populate, and you just tick boxes. Last will and testament, medical direct, financial power, all of it. Ding, ding, ding. You submit that. An attorney will call you the next day and say, hey, I'm the attorney in your area, got your message, let's set this up, come on in, we'll knock all this out. Like, you can do this in the first month at like $35, $36 a month. Holy moly. It's the best money you'll spend. I advise you to take a look and read about it first. Just make sure it's right for you. Don't get pushedaround.com. But be smart, be strategic. Get this done, knock it out. Get those documents, put them in your safe, then you're done. If anything bad happens after that, then at least you're taken care of. You don't want to do this when you're in a hospital bed. It's the wrong time to be thinking about it. So think about it now. Do it while it's cheaper. Don'tgetpushedaround.com is the place to go. And also, since it is the new year, new you, are you thinking about that sort of stuff? I mean, hopefully you're taking care of your health all year round. But I know that there's a tendency when the new year kicks off that you want to do things differently. Have you met Christian Yordanov? He's fantastic. He's been on this show a bunch. I'll be introducing him to the stage at Anarchapulco. And he's my certified health practitioner. I trust him with my life. period. I don't know if I can give a much greater endorsement than that. Here's a review that was sent to Christian by somebody from this show. I asked Christian to help me get and stay healthy because I've lost all faith in crimes against humanity. That is the current government-run medical system. My plan was to be proactive and do the best I can to avoid ending up in a hospital if at all possible. After consultation with Christian, I knew I was making the right decision to join his program. I've learned more in the first week working with him than I've learned in 30 years. So many small, simple changes in my life that have helped me avoid depression and have more energy and more positive outlook on life. And he's a really cool guy who's also very funny. Thank you, Charlie Robinson, for telling me about Christian, how much his unique knowledge and guidance could help me. I'm serious. He'll look under the hood and find out what's going wrong. Go to livelongerformula.com, take a look, read up about it, message Christian, tell him I sent you, tell him that you want to get healthy. It's up to you. You know, if you're waiting for someone else to save you, you'll be waiting a long time. So talk to Christian, start that process. You won't regret it. There's nothing worse than feeling shitty. There's just nothing worse, and it's preventable. So livelongerformula.com. Hopefully you'll find him. Oh, by the way, since we'll wrap this up, since I mentioned Anarchapulco, are you going? Anarchapulco 2026, February 15th through the 20th. It is now in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico this year. Hope you go check it out. I'll be the MC all 5 days on the stage. I'll see you there. Jeff Berwick, Curtis Stone, Gareth Ike, David Ike, Max Egan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Christian Yordanev, Tim James, Patrick Henningsen, Greg Reese, Steve Falconer, Vit Jadlenka, the president of Lieberland. I've introduced the president of Lieberland to the stage before, and I'll get a chance to do it again in February. There's also a few other people whose names I don't think I'm at liberty to announce, but I've seen them. They're on schedule. You can go check it out. Go to anarchapulco.com. Discount code is macro to save yourself some money. Hopefully I'll see you in Puerto Vallarta. It's worse places to be than Mexico in February. My goodness, especially for me. Be coming out of Denver. I may never come home. Let's talk about the Trump Doctrine. I don't know if you guys were paying attention on Thanksgiving. That's when they announced this. And, one of those prominent nights where news is delivered to the nation, right? No. That's when you deliver news that you don't want anybody to pay attention to. And what he put forth in this is nothing short than a new version of the Monroe Doctrine. And so I want to talk a little bit about this because it flew under the radar and it shouldn't. It's extremely important that we discuss what he's planning. And here's the caveat to it all. This is Donald Trump talking. So the asterisk that goes on this entire episode is unless he changes his mind tomorrow. But I think that goes for everything. It's not limited to the Trump Doctrine. It's basically everything that comes out of his mouth. He says it. He acts like he means it. In the days or weeks or months afterward, you'll find out whether or not he meant it or not. It typically doesn't mean anything he says. But so with this new idea of the Monroe Doctrine, but 203 years more modern, we'll go over it because he's talking about it. They put a lot of effort into this. They're definitely trying to do this. The question is, can they? Do they? Is this something that you really honestly need 8 years to do? And so, when you're in your second term and you're going into your second year of the second term, it's like, 3 years maximum to get this done. I don't know. Seems like a tall order. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about, first of all, the original Monroe Doctrine, just so you know where this guy's coming from. Well, and then what this talks about. This is NSS 2025 National Security Strategy. We'll go National Security Strategy of the United States of America. This was released in November 2025. We'll go over that. I want to talk a little bit about what the plan is for U.S. corporations, because it's about U.S. corporations. I mean, don't kid yourself. And lastly, we'll wrap up with why some of this might not be all bad. There's it's not black or white. There are good components to this. And when Berwick and I wrote Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, remember having conversations with people and they were saying, so you're saying America's going away? And it's like, no. We're saying the American empire is going away. There's different, in the same vein that the Soviet Union went away, but Mother Russia remains, right? Sometimes when you get too big and too expansive and you have to pare down your empire, you draw back, like somebody who's dying of hypothermia, right? You're going to lose your limbs, but your blood flow will prioritize your organs, right? To try and keep you alive as long as possible. So that's kind of what it is. You'll lose the appendages of empire. You'll lose the 1,000 military bases around the world. You'll lose the dollar as a reserve currency and things like that. But America itself won't go away. Its influence will, and of course. But so when looking at this, at what Trump is talking about for the Trump Doctrine, aka the Monroe Doctrine, is ultimately a prioritization of the Western Hemisphere instead of globalization. Instead of the entire world, let's focus on this smaller batch here, this Western Hemisphere, which is, Greenland, Canada, North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. And Greenland is an important component of this. All of a sudden, people, once I understood the Trump Doctrine, and I looked at how the Monroe Doctrine was written and what it was about, and I started, it made a little bit more sense why he was talking about Greenland so much and the Panama Canal. Remember early on when he got in there, he's like, I'm going to make America great again, and then we're going to take Greenland. Everyone's like, what the fuck has Greenland done to you? Like, all of a sudden, it was a big thing. Never heard anything about it during the campaign. And maybe a little joke here or there, like they did like a meme, I'm going to take Greenland, but that was it. It wasn't much to it. It wasn't until he actually became president. Then they started talking about this, and people are like, oh, I think he might be serious. Like, this is kind of crazy, but I think he might actually be serious about this. But why is he doing this? This makes more sense. Now, once you understand the bigger picture, some of the disjointed actions that Trump was taking early on in the second term are starting to make a little bit more sense. But again, the same caveat applies. He could wake up tomorrow and decide, I'm just doing something different. So this is the downside of reporting on people who are mentally ill, because you could be reporting on what they're doing one day and then the following day it's totally different. They're off to something else. So, this is what he thinks is going to make America great again, right? Is to leave everybody else, let them sort of worry about themselves. Well, we'll see how that plays out. But his plan is to end globalism, which is great, right? Like, on the one hand, you understand that these intergenerational banking families are trying to rule the world, global governance and all, right? So the idea that we would be shifting away from globalism, and it's actually not the worst conceptually. It's not the worst idea we've had, because a lot of the problems that we're experiencing are a result of globalism. We have been focusing on everywhere else instead of our own business. And I think Trump could actually get some traction with this if he sold it in a way where it made people think that this was prioritizing American interests. It's not going to be, ultimately. But if he were able to make that case and sell it like, hey, we're not worrying about Ukraine anymore. We're not worrying about the situation there. We're not worrying about the Middle East anymore. That's what we did, 100 years ago. Now we're focusing just on our sphere of influence, anything that we can control, which, of course, Venezuela has entered the picture here, right? And we'll get into a little bit of that. So, his plan is wild. The Western Hemisphere would be the new focus of the American empire, and that should scare the shit out of countries like Venezuela. Frankly, anybody who starts to dabble in socialism, who starts to talk about nationalizing their natural resources, their oil, their lithium, their whatever, and saying, this is in our land, should be for our people, not ExxonMobil, this is crazy. You guys get out of here. We'll throw you out. That's what Venezuela did. We'll throw you guys out. The Western oil companies used to be in Venezuela. Had a great partnership with them. I mean, we're some of the few technologies come out of the West that can process the sort of oil that comes out of Venezuela. It's a totally different type of oil that requires a specific type of processing that is not easy to do. And we have been very good at doing that, but we were told to get the fuck out a while ago. I don't really blame Venezuela for that. They took a look, made a calculation, said, yeah, all this oil, you guys are giving us pennies on the dollar for. It's our oil. You guys come in here and say, yeah, you're going to process it and you're going to make a certain couple families super rich. Of course, we know that how that works. We've read Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, of course, and we see this. So, but basically what he's saying also is he's saying goodbye to the Middle East. Bye. Except Israel, of course. He'll never give that up. They own Donald Trump. They own that man. So any idea that Donald Trump's going to make America great again, he's going to make America only as great as Israel will allow it to be, because they own that man. I don't know what they've got on him, but they've got something on him. They've got the goods. They can make him dance. So, so long, Europe. Trump is saying bye-bye. Bye-bye to Europe and your lack of air conditioning. You're on your own. Nobody gives a fuck about Africa. China can have it. He's basically said that. You can have it. Have you guys seen the documentary Empire of Dust on the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the Chinese go in there and are trying to build? You've seen the meme. It's all so tiresome of the Chinese guy. that's from this documentary Empire of Dust, where they take the Chinese guys who have on average 106 IQ, and they take them to the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has on average a 65 IQ. I looked it up for the record before this, just to make sure. 65 IQ. 13 IQ points is a full standard deviation. The difference between the average Chinese IQ and the average Congolese IQ is 41 points. It's a 41 point. Again, 13 points this is 3 standard deviations of IQ. So when the guy the Chinese engineer is saying it's also tiresome, what he's referring to is the fact that they have tried to build roads in there. And the people who they turn the infrastructure projects over to either are unable or are unwilling to figure it out. And they just have to so I think America has taken a look at this and said, I think Africa's maybe more trouble than it's worth. They've got a ton of resources that are hard to extract. They're in the middle of the country, trying to build these fucking railroads to the Nairobi and trying to get them to a port somewhere forever. Belt and Road Initiative will probably take care of that. America's made a calculation, at least according to Trump, that they're out. They're too late to the party and they're not doing it. So Asia is going to be tricky to disconnect from, but according to Trump, America needs to do that in order to preserve our, sanity, national sovereignty, national security, a little of everything. We need to detach from that. I'll get into why that is towards the end of this, but that's what Trump is making a calculation. We need to be less dependent on Asia, which is true. Give up on Africa. It's too much work and too little reward for that. The focus will be on North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean, and Greenland, of course. So let's talk a little bit about what the Monroe Doctrine was. It was written in 1823. It declared that Americans were no longer open to European colonization in the Western Hemisphere. They wouldn't mess with the existing colonies, but there were going to be no more. They locked them out. And that was in the Caribbean. That was in Central South America. That was the Western Hemisphere. The U.S. said, yeah, you guys, there's a lot of when you go to the Caribbean, there's a lot of islands there that are under Dutch control. Like the island of St. Martin is kind of screwy. It's kind of cut in half. Half of it's under Dutch control, half of it's under French control. So when you say you're going to the island of St. Martin, they go Dutch or French side. You're like, oh, fuck, I didn't know there was a difference. Well, you'll figure it out when you get there. So, by the way, the Dutch side's awesome. So the European empires were very much involved in the Caribbean for a long, long time, far before, 100 years before the Americans were. I mean, this whole Christopher Columbus story is fucking nonsense. Okay, I don't even know where to start on that. I'm not going to get into that. But the idea that like we discovered they'd been running spice trades and through the Caribbean for 100 fucking years before this. So what Trump is saying, what the Monroe Doctrine said, is that you guys can have these existing colonies here, but you're not allowed to have any more. This is our turf. And by the way, you guys think you're going to come in here and continue this, British Empire of colonizing us? We're not going to be standing for that. But I'll tell you what, I think James Monroe might have been a double agent for the crown. I honestly think this might have benefited the British for us to go and do things the way that they set about during the Monroe Doctrine. By the way, he was a U.S. Senator from Virginia. Virginia Company? Anyone? Crown Control? He was the Minister to the United Kingdom for 4 years. This is the reason why I think James Monroe was a fucking double agent for the British. He was Secretary of State. He was the Secretary of War. He was the president from 1817 to 1825. And this document was written by John Quincy Adams, mostly, who was the Secretary of State at the time. So, anyway, this was what the Monroe Doctrine set about in a little over 200 years ago, and we've drifted from that. We have, this was a time when you would get United Fruit, corporate revolutions. You know what I mean? So instead, we were saying, all you people from Asia and from Europe, the Western Hemisphere is now locked down. It's off limits. If you guys want to participate there, you're going to talk to us, and then we'll guide you through, and we'll help you sort out what's what. This is where you start to hear about the economic hitmen coming into play and enslaving countries because of their natural resources. This is when you get United Fruit. You talk about like what happened in Central America and they're overthrowing these countries. We got to get the right leaders in there. Because we're spreading democracy. No. You have to get the right leaders in there because if you get the wrong leaders in there, they won't allow United Fruit to own the banana fields to grow the bananas there at a reasonable price. So you have to get the right person. So again, the sales pitch is we're spreading democracy because we want fairness throughout all of these third world regions. The reality is that we don't give a flying fuck about fairness in these areas. All we actually want is a person in control of this country who is going to allow our corporations to do what they want to do there. And if you are unwilling or unable to allow our companies to do that, we will regime change you. We will send in we will, the Iran Contra, we will fund the Contras to fight the Sandinistas. We will fund the opposition to overthrow your government to get you out of there. And we'll put a new guy in who's gone through School of the Americas, who understands the routine, who's been trained by the U.S., who knows how to throw people out of helicopters. We'll put him in there. He'll clean up the mess, and then magically United Fruit will get the exclusive ability to grow as many bananas in this region, and if you come in their area, the established government will take care of it for you. Because the people in the high levels of the government have been made extremely wealthy by these corporations that are looking to exploit them. So this is how it works. Nothing really new. Trump is just taking a new look at this. Ultimately, I think he's making a calculation that there are resource wars going on, lithium, oil, opium, cocaine, whatever. There's always resource wars going on. They've given up the very lucrative Afghanistan region to grow opium. We're no longer in the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia to grow opium there. Well, now it's time to take over the cocaine production of South America. right? We have to get rid of Venezuela because they're huge drug dealers just running fentanyl in. Really? Are they making the fentanyl in Venezuela? No, they're making it in China. Where are they sending it to? Mexico. And so Venezuela, what? Yeah, exactly. It's all bullshit. But I think if I were to look at this from why now, why this has been 200 years, this has been kind of collecting dust. Why the need to dust it off and get serious about this now? I think that Trump could be gearing up. Well, I say Trump, but I should say the American empire, but to reconfigure supply chains for a future war with China. I mean, if you think about it this way, let's suppose that there is a scheduled future war with China between the United States and China. It wouldn't be an unrealistic prediction to make due to a concept known as the Thucydides trap, which states that a rising superpower that threatens the existing control structure will go to war. Let me rephrase that. In the history of the recorded history, there have been 16 different occasions in which a new empire challenged the existing empire. In 12 of those instances, it ended in war. So you've got a 75% chance of going to war. We have the established empire, the American empire, and the threat of a rising empire, China. If the United States decides that what we need to do is fall into the Thucydides trap and go to war with China, and they put that on the calendar for, 2028, let's just say, I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but just say it's a couple years away, and you knew that was going to happen, and you said, okay, in the run-up to that, we're going to have to make some changes, because if this war kicks off and we have a supply chain situation with China and we're going to fight China, that's going to be a problem. So I believe Trump could be gearing up to reconfigure his supply chains. I think that is possibly what, but I'll tell you what, you can read it for yourself. So you can find this document. It's called National Security Strategy of the United States of America. It was released on Thanksgiving, November 2025. It's 33 pages long because, of course, it is. I've read it, so you don't have to, but you can go to whitehouse.gov. It's there. I'll talk to you a little bit about what it calls for. You'll be horrified, I assure you, with the first one, but let's start there. Number one, American Iron Dome. So it's a giveaway to the military-industrial complex. They're going to build an Iron Dome, like the one in Israel that shit the bed and didn't work. I think they overestimate their capabilities in Israel with their Iron Dome. It looked like an iron sieve to me when the Iranians were launching missiles that were blowing up. Alex, I've told this before, but it's worth saying again. Alex Cranier told this story that there was a Ukrainian missile that was a new technology that the Israelis had never seen or never experienced, that when it came in, it broke apart and took out, I think, 16 buildings all at once, was what he said. It didn't just take out one building, it took out all of them. So the American Iron Dome, no, thank you. I'm fine. The logistics of it doesn't make any sense. That people would have to be launching missiles from the Mexico border or Canadian border or from a tanker off the port of LA or something like that. I don't know. The idea of an Iron Dome does not appeal to me. He talked about the borders being locked down. Now that does. I do initially kind of like the idea where he's like, we're not going to be doing all this open border stuff. Well, that's good. I mean, it's a start. He talks about he wants modern nuclear missiles. He doesn't like those old missiles. Bring me the new missiles, the newest ones you've got. He wants to bring back industrial industry, that he calls that the highest priority. That is actually a good thing. And I'll put that at the feet of Bill Clinton and the group of NAFTA in the mid 90s. that we're talking about that North American Free Trade Agreement that destroyed the American industrial capacity. It really hammered the Rust Belt area of the United States, and bringing back industrial industry would be a good thing. You'd need to have somebody in there working on the regulations, because the regulations that exist right now have all been put in place by Democrats that don't understand business, because they don't build anything, they don't run anything, they don't understand math or accounting or numbers or finance or supply chains. They wave a magic wand. They think, oh, we'll just make it harder for you. We'll just put more regulators there to regulate the shit out of you, and then that'll make sure everybody's protected. Doesn't work like that. He says he wants to be a lead. Trump says he wants to be a lead on energy, even become a net exporter of energy. Well, stealing Venezuela's oil would be a good way to do that, I suppose, but I don't need to tell him that. He's already made that calculation. He talks about maintain soft power internationally. Soft power. Soft power, you mean threats? I know what hard power is. I understand that concept. Soft power works really well when you have the world's reserve currency and you don't hyperinflate it. And then you can use that to bribe and manipulate people. But once you've inflated your currency, it makes it a little bit tougher to maintain that soft power. When you lose especially if you're trying to, on the one hand, he's saying we're going to retreat from being the policeman of the world internationally. And then he says, but I want to maintain soft power internationally. It's like, well, okay, so you don't want tanks on every corner. You just want the threat of tanks on every corner. I get it. He said he wants the rest of Central and South America to be stable so migrants won't come. Well, that is the way to do it, no doubt about it. But, the reason why Central and South America is destabilized is because of the American empire, right? You do know that, right, Trump? Like, I get you want them to be stable, because if they're stable, then they don't feel the need to pack up their stuff and leave and go somewhere else, right? So you do want stability in order to make sure that they don't all get that same idea to walk to the United States. But you understand that the group that would be in charge of destabilizing is America. So it's like, if you want to not destabilize the Middle East, it's very easy to do. Or South America, I should say, and not the Middle East, although same goes for them. The process is easy. If you don't want to destabilize them, stop destabilizing them. Stop invading them. Stop regime changing them. Stop fucking with their government. Stop fucking with their resources and their people. If you stop doing that, they won't leave. It's like, but how do we simultaneously fuck with them, but also not destabilize them to the point where I don't know, man. I don't know if there's an answer to that. I think the answer is stop messing with these people, and then they will stop coming here. But what do I know? He says we must lead in artificial intelligence, biotech, and quantum computing. Okay. Do you have a path for that? Is that what the $500 billion you're going to give to Sam Altman and Larry Ellison? We're going to lead in that? Maybe. Lead ourselves right into some dystopian hellscape. Most definitely. Quantum computers? Oh, man, I don't know. Be careful with that stuff. I just remember that Geordie Rose from D-Wave, that interview where you're saying opening up parallel dimensions and dragging back information. Yeah, man, from who? I don't know. He talked about what he called primacy of nations, prioritizing America over others. That is, make America great again? I don't know. Prioritizing America over others is what primacy of nation. You mean the way we prioritize Israel over America? You mean like that? Because we're definitely prioritizing America over others. Show me, homie. You're going to have to show me that. We haven't prioritized America in a long time. This is the United States of Israel, in case you haven't been paying attention. He says, pro-American workers. We're going to be pro-American workers, except for the H-1B visas, where we're going to let all the Browns in. We're going to let them in. They're going to eat the bugs. I don't know. His idea on pro-American workers is one of those that I'm just going to have to see it to believe it, because that isn't what we're in the tech industry. It's not what we're seeing. We're seeing Indians on H-1B visas being prioritized. In construction, we're seeing literally anybody that is willing to work for cheap being prioritized, even if they don't have the skills. If you're going to make pro-American worker, everything's going to get way more expensive, which is fine. I mean, if that's the direction you want to go, you're going to have to make a calculation with that. But I mean, it's great to be pro-American worker. I'm for that 100%. Things will get expensive because of it. You just have to know that. And there's a point in this document. I had to laugh when I read it, because, and I have to put it in quotes, because the term says fairness. Just the idea of the American empire talking about fairness, right? But it actually says this. It says, what it means is that the other countries it's talking about NATO, and it's saying the other countries need to pull their weight. We need fairness. And what he's saying is, you guys need to put your money in. We've been putting a lot of money into NATO, the American empire, for a long. We've been paying 50% of it. All these other countries just kick in nothing. And what he said is, you need to put in either between 2 and 5% of your GDP into NATO. Now, I don't think Trump actually wants these countries to put their money into NATO. I think what he really wants is them to not do it, to not have it, and say, we're not doing it, so that he can say, well, then I'm not doing it either, and we're out. I would love for NATO to go away. I think it might. NATO was there as a check on the Warsaw Pact. You know, it was like, and when the Soviet Union went away and when the Warsaw Pact went away, NATO should have gone away at the same time, because that's what it was there. It was keep an eye on this unchecked potential Soviet influence in Eastern Europe, and if it starts to come Western, then we'll have NATO there to fight back. Once the Soviet Union went away and there was no threat of Western expansion by them, NATO should have gone away, but it didn't, because it's used for a variety of other things. So this idea that he says, fairness for these other countries, you guys are going to have to kick in your money. They're not going to be able to do that. They can't afford that. They can't even afford electricity in Germany. You think they're going to be kicking in 5% of their GDP to fund some bullshit wars? I mean, they're in dire straits themselves. They used to be the industrial engine of Europe. Now they're cutting down trees to try and keep themselves warm in the winters. Nice job on the Nord Stream pipeline, you fucking retards. Let's move on a little bit. Priorities. This is one of the things that this document talks about. He says these are going to be the priorities. The era of mass immigration is over, except for Somalis and Afghans and Israelis, of course. They can do whatever they want. But I really mean it when I say the era of mass migration is over. I don't know. Again, you're gonna have to prove this. You're gonna have to show me this. Donald Trump has said that he's going to be deporting millions and millions of people. Barack Obama has still deported far more people than Donald Trump has. So he's behind in scheduling on that. He better get to work. So the idea this era of mass migration is over. It's just talk. He also says that second on this list, the priorities, free speech. Is it truly free speech, or is it free speech as long as you're not critical of his donors or Israel or whatever? He says realignment through peace. Realignment through, you mean as opposed to realignment through war? What we've been doing. And then last, he says economic security. He wants economic security. So what does economic security mean? Well, according to them, it means this. It means balanced trade. It means securing access to supply chains. It means reindustrialization, bringing this, not the thousands of factories in China that we outsourced in the early 70s with Kissinger, Bush, and Rockefeller when they were building out that industrial capacity of China, using Chase Bank to do that. This is the end of that. This is why I say it's all kind of written in pencil. Because Trump can have these ideas, but man, they didn't build this globalist network overnight. And they don't intend for one lunatic to take it all down. So again, this is an idea of what he wants to do. This is in no way, shape, or form scheduled to written in stone, and it's coming. This is just conceptual. Yeah, so reindustrialization, I think that would be a good thing. He talks about reviving our defense industry base. No, we're good there. We don't need that. He says energy dominance. We reject the disastrous climate change. Well, that's good. That was from it. Quote, we reject the disastrous climate change. I reject that as well because it's nonsense and it's fake and it was created by bankers, not scientists. And he said, we're going to grow America's financial sector dominance. Okay. Buzzwords, but I don't know that necessarily means anything. Let's move on a little bit. This is what he talks about. There's a section called enlist and expand. The enlist part, heavily pushing Coast Guard and the Navy. Big emphasis on the Coast Guard and the Navy. And troops on the border. He said he wants to murder the cartels with military. He wants to use the military against the cartels. CIA would have thoughts on that. They would probably say, don't blow up our partners. And then he wants to expand access in strategically important locations. Those would be, the lithium in Chile. It would be the coke in Colombia. It would be the Panama Canal. It would be the rare earth minerals in Greenland. Expanding our access to strategically important locations, supply chains. That's what this is about. He said he wanted to prioritize commercial diplomacy. Okay. This goes back to the tariffs. This is why the tariffs are coming into play. And he wants to expand. He wants to expand the American presence in the Western Hemisphere. So he wants to, who has the current, who's the creeping influence in South America right now? It's China. Right, Venezuela's selling oil to China. Ecuador is doing really dangerous facial recognition systems with China. China's there. They're playing a role in this. They see South America as sort of a forgotten opportunity, and they wish to invest in all the countries there. And they have been for a while. But given this new Trump doctrine, that's going to be a problem. So he's going to want to kick China out of South America and Canada, not kicking Israel out of Argentina, of course. He's not kicking Claudia out of Mexico, of course. We'll keep them there because those are his bosses, or his boss's people, I should say. So he's not going to do that. But on page 22, it says this. The U.S. government will identify strategic acquisition and investment opportunities for American companies in the region and present these opportunities for assessment by every U.S. government financing program, including, but not limited to, those within the Department of State, War, and Energy. They're coming for the resources. If you are a resource-rich country in Central and South America, you're about to get some democracy dropped on your ass. I hope you're ready for it. Again, it may change. You may get distracted. Squirrel. He's off to something else. But he wants U.S. companies to have regulations reversed in these countries. Not just that they have access to the countries. We've had access to the countries for a while, most of them. But within those countries, there are regulations that are put on our companies, or maybe regulations that are put on all companies, but we want those regulations removed for us because we're the American empire and we come in swinging a big dick and we just take what's ours, right? And the alternative is you're going to remove the regulations from our companies in your country here, or else we'll bomb the shit out of you. That's the implied threat here. And if the country is unaware of the long history of the American empire doing exactly what they say when it comes to bombing the shit out of countries, they don't have to look too far to know that we're serious about I say we as I'm an American, not that I would ever do anything like that, but he wants foreign infrastructure, all the companies that were involved in foreign infrastructure pushed out of the region, the Chinese, and replaced with, he wants the Chinese economic hitman. You can get John Perkins' newest book, his newest iteration of the Confessions of an Economic Hitman that focused on the Chinese influence in South America. I should have John back on to talk about this. This will be interesting because this is right in his wheelhouse. So they want, the American engineering firms, the Halliburtons, the Bechtels, in John Perkins' case, Maine, the company he worked for. They want those multinational engineering firms that come out of the West to be in charge of building the hydroelectric power plants and the interstate highway systems and the airports and the dams and the ports and all the heavy infrastructure that needs to be built out. We want our guys doing that, right? So this will be the end of the Chinese economic hitman and a reintroduction of the crew, John Perkins guys back in the 70s that were in there doing this. And of course, they were working at the behest of the IMF and World Bank, which is Rockefeller controlled. So there's that. He mentioned an increased military presence in the Caribbean with 10,000 troops and a lot of boomer toys like battleships and aircraft carriers and shit like that don't work anymore. Oh boy, the American empire is going to pay a big price when they find out that a $2 billion aircraft carrier can be neutralized with an EMP in 5 seconds. You turn that thing into a floating target real quick. So some of these old toys that we have, I could see them getting repurposed and positioned off the coast of Venezuela for, show of strength, show of what's coming. You don't want to get too uppity with our empire. We'll park the aircraft carriers, right off the coast of your port cities and sit there for a while. So he seeks to grow. He says this is what he plans to do. This is what Trump plans to do. Not that he's actually going to do it, but he says he seeks to grow the U.S. economy from 30 trillion to 40 trillion by the end of the 2030s. That's a pretty ambitious target. This is of the belief that you're going to grow your way out of this economic collapse that's coming instead of cutting spending, right? We're just going to grow ourselves. We're going to be so good. We're going to grow from 30 trillion to 40 trillion. Then all of our problems are fixed. Yeah. Except if you can't get to 40 trillion, or maybe you do get to 40 trillion, but it's only because the dollar is worth less and you're just hyperinflating it. So he wants an army. He wants the army to develop small-scale refineries for critical minerals. So he's making a calculation. This is why I think that this is the pretext for war, because he's making a calculation that the army, that the military has to be in charge of the supply chain, because they want these refineries for critical minerals, but they're not asking Google to develop them. They're asking the military to develop them because they view this as a military, important military strategic asset. And so that's a pivot. That's an interesting pivot. There's a gold project in Idaho. It's in Idaho, and it's antimony sulfide. Don't know what that antimony sulfide. We need that apparently. I don't even know what it is, but there's a project in Idaho. We're starting to source it. Rare earth minerals for armaments and ammunition. He's calling for that. We need that. Yeah, dipshit. And 90% of it gets refined in China. Actually, I heard that almost 100% of it was being refined in China. But so you not only need to establish the supply chain to get rare earth minerals, but you then have to take the additional step of refining them as well, because it doesn't do you any good to pull them out of the ground if you can't refine them. But when the refining is such a precise and specific industry that it's really only happening in China, then you better not fight with China. And if you're planning to go to war with them, you better have this part buttoned up too. Because if all of a sudden you decide, yeah, I know we're fighting with you, but could you refine all of our rare earth stuff? We've got these, these EV cars aren't going to sell themselves. And China just goes, I'm sorry, we're not taking your calls anymore. He wants to promote American energy dominance, thus the Venezuela fuckery, I would assume. He wants superior AI technology. It's got to be the best. Maybe we'll just make it gold, and then it'll be the best. We'll just put gold all over it. Then you can just call it the best. He said he called Europe. He went to town on Europe in this document. Quote, unrecognizable in 20 years or less. The most true component of this entire 33-page document was that sentence right there. That Europe will be unrecognizable in 20 years or less. Emphasis on the or less. And he talked about the real problem due to demographic changes, civilizational erasure was the term they used. I interpreted that to mean the Kalergi plan, but that's just where my head goes to. Let's wrap up with this, okay? Because it's not all. This is going to be a huge problem. And so let's just wrap up with some of the ways this will destroy America, and then we'll give a couple of the ways that it's not really the worst thing in the world. So first of all, and I just mentioned this, that China's rare earth refining capacity makes them almost untouchable. You're going to need to replicate that before anybody gets into a war with them. They simply have the capacity to refine these rare earth minerals, and nobody else does. Not at the scale that China does. I'm not trying to say it's not 100%. There are little pockets here and there, but your need to ramp that up in years, you have had to have started on it already. Frankly, if you want to make this, if you want to tie up that loose end of the rare earth stuff, that needed to be sorted out like 10 years ago. It's a bit late. China has $1.5 trillion of U.S. debt that they're sitting on. And if they decided that they wanted to sell that all at once, that would be a catastrophe for us, for the dollar, for anybody holding dollars, for anybody holding U.S. treasuries. I mean, it would flood the market. It would destroy us without firing a shot. And so that's something that they need to keep an eye on, also. Not for nothing, but China makes computer chips and medicines and batteries and all that stuff. So when you're getting your pharmaceuticals from China and India, you better stay on good terms with those countries, or build the factories in America that can make the pharmaceuticals that you need. But if you don't have those facilities, if you decide after you've started the war, we should probably build some of these pharmaceutical facilities to make these pills that we keep getting everybody hooked on. Oh, well, it's too late. When you got 100 million Americans coming off their anti-anxiety meds at the same time, good luck with that. And, also, I think that this would be hugely destructive for America. It's kind of hard to have the world's reserve currency while being closed for business. And in this document, they are talking about like, we are closed for business with Europe and the Middle East and Asia. And it's like, we are? Like, we should probably stay open for business a little bit longer. They're like, nope, we're just not dealing with them anymore. We're not working with them anymore. We're not renewing our partnerships with them anymore. It's like, okay, this is really fast. You're trying to turn this economy around, and I get it. I understand what he's trying to do, or what he's talking about trying to do, but this is the aircraft carrier that you can't turn around that quick. It takes a while to make that turn from globalism to nationalism. And, let's also talk about the British elephant in the room. And that is that I'm not so sure the British Empire and the city of London will allow this. And they have undue influence. Most people don't really think too much about the city of London. And when I say the city of London, of course, I mean the financial city of London. They have a say in this as well. And so the idea that we're going to just wake up one morning and reimagine society and Donald Trump's going to wave a magic wand, globalism's going to go away, and that these supply chains are going to be reimagined, and that the relationships that we have are going to, come and go, and that these treaties that we have will be ripped up. And this is just, it's too much. It's too much all at once. And again, it's coming from a man who has delusions of grandeur. A guy who wakes up in the morning and just can't stop talking about how great he is. Well, you're going to have to show me that you can do literally any of this, because it all just sounds like a real nice idea, but there are too many external bosses that have a say in this, like the idea that the British crown is just going to go, oh, that sounds good. Oh, you're just not going to deal with us anymore? Oh, it's fine. I don't think so. And look, supply chains, you want to develop them? Good. We should have redundancy. We should have multiple supply chains just in case. But if you think you're going to do that in 2 years in order to kick off a war with China, I mean, these things take time. This is not something you can just wave a magic wand and supply chains appear out of nowhere. We're watching how this is being done with the Belt and Road Initiative, and they're doing it. Maritime ports, connecting to maritime points, they take a long time to build. And it's a lot of work. This isn't something that can be slapped together real quick right before we up and invade China on your way out the door as president to hand it over to J.D. Vance or whoever. No, thank you. It's too much change. Not to mention the idea that the stock market would have to now process this, that all these multinational corporations were not going to be as multinational anymore as you might have thought they were due to this reimagining of our priorities by, the orange president, God King. I don't know. I think the stock market would be a catastrophe. I think that I don't think you would understand. I don't think you would know how to value companies. What's your future earnings going to be? How the fuck do I know? I just got cut off from servicing Europe and the Middle East because my boss woke up one day and decided that we're not doing that anymore. What's my 5-year outlook? I don't know what my 5-month outlook is, So, and what if everybody decides that this is the moment that they need to sell their dollars? Oh, you're going to cut off us? You're not going to do business with us anymore? Then I'm not holding these dollars. And then all the dollars come flying back to America. Then what? Hyperinflate our currency? Good luck passing this new, it's going to be great, everybody. Just hang in there for 10 years as we go through the hyperinflation of the currency, because on the back end, it'll be great. Your grandkids will love it. Good luck selling that. No more $300 80-inch flat panel TVs. Those days are gone. Get ready for your car to be triple in cost now, because all the parts that were being made in China can't make them there anymore. Have to make them in America, and that's going to cost more. I mean, you be very careful opening this can of worms. Microchips that are used in literally everything. They're used in all your car, used in your watch, used in your phones, used in your computers. They're used in everything. They're used in your coffee maker, for God's sake. China decides, oh, we can play this game too. You guys don't want our supply chain anymore? That's fine. We'll turn it off. Good luck. Now the only place you're going to be getting your computer chips from is Taiwan. By the way, since you've decided to leave the Eastern influence, China will just take Taiwan. And now you'll have no computer chips. Have we thought about this? Have we considered this, right? There's a lot to think about. I just don't think this is an administration operating procedure is ready, fire, aim. I don't trust them. I don't think they've thought this out. And I think there's going to be real problems. However, let's wrap it up with this. Not all bad. I'll tell you how things would play out if this happens and why it wouldn't be all bad. It'd be the end of NATO. NATO would be done by 2027, and that would be fantastic. It'd be the end of the European Union after that. because when NATO goes away, the EU would go away, and things would be much different over there. How funny that a decision that Trump makes about the Western Hemisphere would impact Europe almost immediately. So it would economically destroy Europe on top of that. We just would, if America decided that they weren't focusing on Europe anymore, and they really were focusing, the pivot was to South America in the Western Hemisphere, there would be so much chaos. The amount of money that flows from the American empire into Europe and props up its governments, its economy, staggering. There's no resources of value in Europe. They keep talking about, Putin might invade Europe. For what? Please, don't flatter yourself. There's nothing he wants there. So Europe's in huge problems, and something like this would be, the money would disappear from Ukraine immediately, right? If we honestly prioritized the Western Hemisphere over Europe, all of a sudden, we don't have to worry about Ukraine anymore. We don't have to send all this money in there. Stability with Russia would be possible. Be difficult, but Middle East would be downgraded as a priority, by this administration. That'd be good. I'd be happy. I mean, if not Israel, of course. But to have the U.S. empire no longer picking fights in the Middle East, that'd be great. That's a fantasy because America's influence and presence in the Middle East is directly tied to Israel. We're there because of Israel. So as long as that relationship remains, and we're so cucked and blackmailed that I see no reason why it wouldn't remain, I find it hard to imagine how the American empire would leave Ukraine or would leave Israel, even though this policy paper that he put forth says that they would. I just am not buying it. And look, America does need a massive infrastructure overhaul. It would be nice if the priority was we're just not spending all this money on the wars overseas. We've got to catch up for 50 years of squandering our infrastructure. The Chinese have high-speed trains. We have trains to nowhere in Central California. So I think it would, if in conjunction with this, we got like an American Belt and Road initiative that improved the roads and rebuilt the ports and fixed the airports and added a high-speed rail system and buried all the power lines underground and reimagined electricity and went to nuclear power and things like that. Hey, I'd be on board with some of that. But again, I don't know that any of this will actually happen in the aftermath. But America's Belt and Road Initiative would be, it would be a way to kickstart the infrastructure inside the United States, and we should take the opportunity to harden our own just-in-time supply chain, which we experienced during the early weeks of COVID. Is fragile and susceptible to kinks in it throughout the entire chain. So that needs to be fixed. Gold, silver, and Bitcoin, I think, would explode in value with capital controls if they started trying to tell you what you could and couldn't buy with your money. I don't know. Seems like when I read this document, I'll wrap it up with this. It seemed like if Trump has it his way, and he's got a lot of pushback, I'm sure, and this will be a tough one to get past, but he would be putting the policemen of the world into retirement, in a sense. That would be a good thing. Now, look, I don't believe that Trump's going to do 80% of what he's talking about. He's a pathological liar guiding a dying empire that has no close. So you can take any of what he says for what it's worth, which is not much, but he's got big plans for the American empire. We'll see if he's got the time to do it. And if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. Go ahead and quickly rate the show. Give us 5 stars if you think we've earned it. Macroaggressions.io is the website. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you again soon.